Hi, this is Buddha Pickle here, and I was going to do a little different video than what I'm used to. My son got me interested in anime about 3 or 4 years ago, and it's kind of become a hobby. Following what's new and catching up on some of the old classics and the storylines there. But one of the things I've done the last 2 years is I've gone to Anime Central, that convention. And this year, I decided to go to Anime Midwest as well. And I thought what I might do is a little, just my opinion, some of the similarities between the two conferences, some of the differences, if you're interested in attending, and also kind of a record that I can go back to next year and kind of, base my decisions on what I remember. Because I have a very short memory, and uh, I need reminders of things. So first thing I want to say is Anime Central. We'll refer to that as ASON. ASON this year was May 23rd through 25th at the Rosemont Convention Center. I think it's Donald E. Stevens Convention Center in Rosemont, Illinois. And then Anime Midwest was July 6th through 8th at the same location. So as far as the externals go of the conventions, they're the same. Same parking lots, the same building. The externals are the same. The differences come, almost immediately in the way they handle registration and whatnot. Both conventions want you to pre-register, and if you pre-register in advance, the further out is a bigger discount. And as you get closer to the convention, it gets the price gets higher until it's the same price as just walking in and signing in then. Anime ASON, never been a problem. You pre-register, they send you the badges in the mail. You show up when the convention starts, and you're off and running. One of the differences that Midwest does, and I understand why they want you to pre-register, because what they do is they're actually providing food at the convention, and it's a real nice amenity. They provide ramen and white rice and also soda. So they want to have a good idea of who's going to be there to be able to pre-order that. One of the problems I noticed, though, is that when we showed up, and beforehand we had received an email confirmation saying, just bring your ID or this confirmation letter to the convention, and then we'll set you up. We get there on the first day, and this really applies to people that are just going on the first day. I didn't really notice a problem on Saturday, but people that are definitely going Friday. If you're going to Anime Midwest and you pre-registered, expect to spend most of your day standing in line, because they don't pre-issue the badges. They don't mail them out. Now, that may change, and next year, if that changes, I would certainly take advantage of the cost savings in pre-registering. But we spent so much time in line because basically everybody that's pre-registered, and that's the vast majority of people, are asked to queue up, stand in line. You go through, they had it set up to where there was 10 booths. There were 2 assigned for at convention signups, people that were just signing up then. Then they had 4 booths that were for people who had pre-registered but had forgot to bring their ID, and another 4 for people who were pre-registered and had their ID. And it was just a long wait. I don't remember how much time we spent there, but it was pretty dramatic. Now, if you're someone like me and maybe your time is more valuable than money, what I would do next year is I would not pre-register unless they change the mailing of the badge. If that hasn't changed and they're asking me to go through the same process, for me, what I would do is not pre-register, just show up at the convention and register there. Yes, it's going to be full price, but the line for the people that was that were in that position was negligible. As a matter of fact, my son and I had pre-registered, and we took someone with us who was registering at the convention. She just walked in, went to the line. There was only like 2 people ahead of her, and she was on her way. And we spent the better part of 3 hours in line waiting to get our badges so we could go about our business. Yeah, like I said, if Midwest changes their routine and decides to mail out the badges ahead of time, then that would change. But for me, I would not pre-register next year. I would just show up. Now, as far as the convention itself, the first thing that you notice is the vendor area. Very similar to between ASON and Midwest. Midwest did not rent as much space that ASON did, and all their vendors and the artists were together in about maybe 2/3 of the full convention floor, whereas ASON rents the whole thing. And even then, ASON will have the vendors and the artists separate. The artists are in a separate hall. ASON in general is more widely attended. I don't know the numbers. Just by guessing, I'd say maybe a third more people attend ASON than Midwest. One of the other things about ASON that impressed me is that it's very much an industry-driven convention. When you first walk into the vendor areas, you're going to see huge booths from Funimation, from Crunchyroll. I think Aniplex was there. And a lot of the panels are industry-led panels. So specific animes might have somebody from Funimation that's in charge of the scheduling of it, or the English production, the voice acting, whatever, and some of the voice actors themselves. Midwest, however, is very much a fandom-driven convention. A lot of the panels are fans of shows that get that time slot, and what you'll go is you go to that panel and it's just fans talking to fans. It's a much looser format, and one of the side effects to that I noticed is in Midwest particularly, because it's more of a casual atmosphere. You're going to end up with a lot of instances of people just that'll talk through the whole panel because they're really not interested. They went to the convention more to have a chance to be with their friends and hang out. Midwest seemed to be a little bit more formal, a little bit higher standard etiquette. ASON tends to have a lot more staff on hand, especially as far as having people at the panel rooms. ASON, if you're familiar with Rosemont Convention Center, ASON rents both floors, the upper floor of the panel rooms and the lower floor, and as well as the neighboring hotel, which I believe the Hyatt, and they rely on a lot of that space. Midwest really put a lot of emphasis on using the panel rooms that were in the hotel as opposed to using the panel rooms that were in the convention center. And that created some logistical problems as well. For instance, one of the rooms, the first panel we had gone to, that particular room in the Hyatt, on the lower floor of the Hyatt, has these 2 4-foot by 4-foot gigantic columns right in the middle of the room, and it really obscures a lot of the view from one half the room. So anytime I looked down on the schedule and saw a panel in that particular room, I passed on it because it wasn't a good setup. 4 of the main panel rooms that Midwest used were also on the lower level of the hotel, and they were in the same hallway, but as opposed to being 4 in a row, they were 4, 2 next to each other, across from each other. And at the end of that same hall was the tabletop gaming area. So there was a huge amount of traffic through the hallway to begin with. And then they were expecting people to line up for panels along the sides of that hall and in the lobby behind it. And It was very confusing. There was really no one there from Midwest to provide any direction. Midwest was also not real good about any signage. You really had to rely on either the book that they provided or their phone app for the panel schedule. Now, I will say this about Midwest. Their phone app, much simpler than ASON's in the sense that it's just a URL, you dial into it, and it's constantly being updated. So, the information is accurate because some of the things from their book had changed due to, conflicts in scheduling or whatnot. For some of the longer lines that would form, because there were a number of music concerts at Midwest, and Midwest did seem to be more musically oriented than ASON was. There were a lot of different bands that you could go see. They were utilizing the medium stage in the hotel. And again, one of the problems we ran into is we would want to see a particular show. We would line up. And because there were clusters of people ahead of us in line that were just, they were there to mingle, they weren't really paying attention to the surroundings around them. And this, is just a pet peeve of mine, but people were just constantly cutting in line. If you're somebody that finds that aggravating, then Anime Midwest will drive you insane. Very little monitoring of lines, and just expect that people are going to cut in front of you. Unfortunate, but that's the way it was. And that happened in every panel, in every instance, just because Midwest doesn't really have the staff to keep order. ASON, on the other hand, does a much better job of having people. ASON does a better job of having people in front of the panel rooms. I believe ASON used dry erase boards to say what the panel was at any specific time. A little bit more direction, a lot more orderly, or at least that's the way it seemed to me. Sure, you're going to wait a long time for some panels that you want to see, but it's kind of fun. It's one of the fun parts of the convention is you meet new people. A lot of times card games would break out, or discussions of whatever, and it was a good time. I'm trying to remember what else I wanted to talk about, but like I said, Midwest, a lot more informal, but a lot more amenities than ASON had. Obviously the food is a nice addition. Also, the vendors in particular at Midwest, there were a lot of Asian market stores that were there. So snacks and all that was never a problem at Midwest. All that that was always available. Whereas ASON tends to be more merchandise oriented. But that's really the sum of it that I could see. If you're going to the convention to learn about where the industry's at, what's new, what's coming out, you really want to focus on ASON. The industry gets their information out, their announcements, what new shows there are, where the shows are at currently, things like that. Very informative. That's ASON's focus. Midwest, Anime Midwest seems to be more of a convention where if you're looking for an opportunity to spend time with your friends, get together, Midwest also has I thought a much better emphasis on tabletop gaming and their game room in general. That might be more of the convention for you, but just know ahead of time it's going to be a lot more informal than ASON is. So I think that's all I had that things that came to mind. So with that, I'll sign off and have a great day, and maybe I'll see you next year at ASON or Midwest. So have a great day.